Hi Pisces, welcome to your December forecast. You guys must have to be so patient because you're the last sign of the zodiac, and I feel like astrologers and tarot readers like always go in chronological order. So maybe I'll start going backwards so that you guys get to be spoiled and be first. But let's get into it. So I'm recording this on the 5th. We already had a few days of the forecast here, but I'm still going to cover it. On the 1st, Mercury, so the planet of speaking, talking, writing, using your voice, typically wherever Mercury is transiting is going to show where we have our ideas, our cerebral energy, what we're thinking about, where we're making plans, where there's some stimulation in the area of our lives, where there's some changes and ramped up energy happening, is going through your 11th house. So this is very social. It's hanging out with a lot of friends. It's saying yes to plans. It's networking. It's expanding your social media network. It's expanding your actual network, your professional network. Having Mercury go through here is usually like you're starting to speak more with people. You're posting more online. You are really getting in touch with thinking about your bigger goals, like not your day-to-day goals, but rather like your vision board, very big dreams and manifestations. You might even be feeling like you are rendering a lot of support, either online or from your friendships or your sense of belonging in the world on a larger level. So like groups, communities, political parties, churches, organizations, Facebook groups, anything like that. Your interconnectivity might be seeing a little bit of an uptick in stimulation. On the 3rd, Venus in your 8th house squared Pluto in your 11th house. So this is kind of doubling down on the idea of support from other people, whether that be energetic support or financial support. Venus is the planet of love, money, beauty, pleasure, things that feel good. It's typically going to bring a sense of ease wherever it's transiting, and having that go through your 8th house looks like usually a boost in either finances and support from other people, like other people's money, other people investing into you through their resources, or investing into you energetically, again through like building intimacy and building trust and kind of overlapping and tethering yourself with other people in a way that tightens the bond between the two of you, whether that be clients, whether that be relationships, whether that be somebody that you're sleeping with. Venus, though, going through your 8th house was more so through November. It did square right before it left your 8th house, Pluto in your 11th. So that was on the 3rd. And Pluto is very much the planet of like truth, profound truth, personal transformation. It's a death and rebirth cycle, and it adds a lot of intensity and mystery and almost this like interrogative energy to finding out the truth and getting to the root of things. And that was going through your 11th house of very big dreams, manifestations, groups, communities, friendships, where you feel you sort of fit into the world. And this is a very slow moving planet. So it's been here for like 15 years now, literally since 2008. And there might have been obviously a lot of changes over the last 15 years to the themes of this area of your chart, but having that square between Venus and Pluto, usually across the board, is going to be an intense edge or overlap between things like finances and relationships, coming to a little bit of an intense halt or need to confront something. In your case, with it being in the 8th and the 11th, it's more so, again, how you overlap with other people, institutions, establishments, and how other people support you within that sense of belonging or lack of belonging. So anything from a group chat to a friend group to, again, a church, a club, a bank, anything where there's this almost layer of trust, you trusting them and them trusting you, and this idea of literal or metaphorical energetic debt, what is owed and what is owed to you, and what you owe other people and what is expected of you, etc. And then this idea of how that's overlapping either with support from other people, the lack of support, or bigger goals on a large level. On the 4th, Venus entered your 9th house of possessions, or I'm sorry, I don't know why I wrote possessions there, of your 9th house of, maybe I meant to write philosophy because that starts with a P, of faith, philosophy, education. Really this idea of like traveling, getting outside your comfort zone, expanding, getting, or exploring like uncharted, unfamiliar territory. So this could be anything from like literally traveling, again, with Venus being pleasure and ease and relationships. Maybe you're traveling with a partner, or you meet somebody abroad. You kind of have like this Italian romance, European romance sort of thing going on. There might be something too where you're just seeing a sense of ease or pleasure coming from learning something new, going back to school, making money off some sort of knowledge or education that you have, finding a sense of ease with saying yes to opportunities that allow you to expand outside of your familiar sort of parameters. This is really good too for like expressing yourself, your opinions, your belief. It's good for building your own personal philosophy based off of your own personal experiences. Anything that's like literally getting outside of what's familiar to you. So again, like traveling somewhere foreign, or metaphorically, like thinking in a new way because you just read a book that's opening your mind in a way that, you know, wasn't something that you've typically done in your day-to-day life. On the 5th, so today, Venus in your 9th house is trining Saturn in your 2nd. I'm sorry I'm talking like this. I've recorded this for all the signs, and this is my first time doing it, and I'm realizing that like you forget how to you forget how to speak when you're talking and saying the same thing over and over again. But Venus, again, being love, money, beauty, pleasure, things that bring like a sense of warmth and coziness wherever it's going through the area of the chart. It's gliding there, it's warm, it's adding a sense of like just this easygoing sort of pleasurable energy. It's like adding lubricant to that area of the chart to go smoother for you. And having Saturn, which is the planet of challenge, limitation, restriction, it's kind of, I don't want to say the entirely opposite, but it has a lot more to do with responsibility and what we have to do rather than what we want to do, because it, you know, requires a sense of responsibility or commitment or showing up and sticking to something, doing things the right way, a sense of maturity. So having a supportive aspect between both Venus and Saturn is beautiful, because it's saying that we don't have to choose between the right thing to do versus the thing we want to do, but rather that both are available through a shared solution. There's something that we want, desire, that feels good, that is like an inspiring or an indulgent or enjoyable sort of outcome or thing that's available to us. And Saturn is saying, okay, you just need to do the work to get to it. It's a celebratory sort of hard work paying off sort of energy. It's saying that you have the resources, the means, the things that are necessary to get the thing that you want. And having this between your 9th house and your 1st house, this might have something to do with some people with like learning, knowledge, and education, going back to school, graduating, because the 1st house has everything to do with yourself. It's who you are, it's what you look like, it's how you navigate the world, what is a part of you and your identity now. So in some cases, for some people, like when they graduate college, it's like you're adding a notch to your identity. You've earned a degree, or you've completed something that is now a part of you based off of something that you know. In another sense, this can look like some people maybe having a spiritual awakening overseas, and they're learning more about themselves based off of like visiting this new place, and they're like, oh my God, I belong here. For other people, it could be something like, again, big opportunities, saying yes to things, really expanding your horizons, and it's kind of altering your identity. You might even be having, like with Saturn going through your 1st house, a little bit of an identity crisis, or feeling like you're going through a lot of challenges that are putting you in an uncomfortable position where you have to like grow up almost. And I think this is a day where you see the rewards of that rather than the challenges of it. On the 7th, Neptune is going to station direct in your 1st house. So Neptune's also going through your 1st house, which can absolutely add into that identity crisis. Saturn is the challenging part of like chiseling you into who you're meant to be based off of grit and tough love and trying circumstances that will toughen you and strengthen you, whereas Neptune adds this sort of haze between who do I want to be, what do I believe in, what is real and what is fantasy, and kind of finding the truth within all of that. So Neptune's very beautiful, it's very dreamy, it's very philosophical, it's very spiritual. The thing about Neptune though is that it's very much the higher octave of pleasure. So while Venus, I always say, is like eating your favorite food or having a crush on somebody, Neptune is like instead of having a crush on somebody, it's like being obsessed with your toxic ex. It's like intoxicating, but you know it's for a bad reason because it's not entirely real. Or instead of eating your favorite food, it's doing your favorite drug because it's sort of inebriating your senses. Or instead of finding $20 on the ground, that would be very Venetian, like something that everybody would typically enjoy. This is like successfully shoplifting and like the rush that you get from stealing something. So it has this sort of deceptive nature to it. At the very worst, I would say, since this is just a transit in the sense of it stationing, when it goes retrograde, because it is very dreamy and imaginative and creative, sometimes it can add a sense of brain fog and just general confusion or lack of energy, fatigue, the inability to execute things, not knowing what you want or what is real or what you should do. And then having it stationed direct, it kind of resumes its regularly scheduled programming, but sometimes that's via a wake-up call or harshly seeing something for what it is, that like having to accept the truth or the reality of something that maybe we've been glossing over or ignoring, or kind of pulling like the wool over our own eyes and romanticizing it. That way we don't have to kind of be facing what is the sobering truth about it, which might not be exactly what we want. Having that in your first house again of who you are, what you look like, your identity. There could be something around just understanding more of like where you lie within your own delusions almost. And being delusional doesn't have to be a bad thing. I think especially for Pisces, there's a benefit to it because you are so emotional and you are such a visionary that I would rather you use your imagination towards dreaming up positive things for yourself rather than like ruminating and depression and like bad nostalgia and like the worst things that have ever happened to you and making them so much scarier and harsher and like more depressing in your mind than they need to be. So I would say that maybe there is some sort of thing here where you're accepting your own like participation within victimhood, disillusionment, brain fog, avoidance, addiction, escapism, anything like that can be very present here. I think with Neptune and Saturn going through your first house right now at the same time in general, there's probably a lot of feeling like, oh my God, I really have to face myself now, really having to look at your reflection in the mirror and see what you have to change, not because you're in trouble, not because you're punished, not because something's wrong with you. You're just the one on Saturn's chopping block right now that's saying like, all right, it's time to really get real about yourself. And at the end of this cycle, which will be into 2026, you won't even recognize yourself because you'll have so much growth and, going through all this karma and passing all these challenging tests and stuff where you'll have like this new chiseled sense of identity. On the 10th, or I want to mention too that Neptune was retrograde since June 30th. So if there's anything about the way that you look, who you are, how you approach the world, your perspective, your identity that has been consistent since June 30th, you might see a shift in that now as it stations direct again. This could even just look like you getting your energy back. Like it doesn't have to be the most insane thing in the world. On the 10th, this is a really good luck day for everybody across the board because both Venus and Jupiter, which are both benefics, they want to give us good things more than they want to challenge us or give us bad things. It's typically offering us joy, pleasure, and opportunity, growth, expansion are going to be opposite one another. So oppositions are a need for balance though. At the very worst, this can look like being overindulgent, functioning in excess, doing too much, being too optimistic. It's like you're talking the talk, but you're not able to walk the walk, or you're over-promising something, or somebody's over-promising something to you. At the very worst, though, I would just say it's like it's like a metaphor of, when you want to eat cake because you want that sugar high and you want to taste the sweetness of it, you really only need one piece to satiate yourself. But sometimes we get out of hand and we eat the whole cake and then we get like such a bad stomach ache from it. Sometimes Venus and Jupiter are like, we did too much, we went too hard, we were being too extra. But having this between your 9th and your 3rd house, this is far more likely to be something in regards to, again, like friendships, getting outside your comfort zone, opportunities, even self-expression, like sharing your ideas, your opinions, your beliefs in things, your faith, your understanding, your knowledge, your general education in something. It's both the access of like reading a book and learning something based off of textbook knowledge, and then this more subjective truth of, if you were to ask 10 people on the street, what's 2 + 2, everyone's going to say 4. But if you're going to ask those same 10 people, what's the meaning of life, they're all going to have a different answer. And to have such an expansive, beneficial, beautiful aspect between such mental, social, and like knowledge areas of the chart, there's a lot of movement going on upstairs here in your mind. And I think that it's going to be very beneficial for traveling, for friendships, for short trips, for running into the right people, for saying the right thing, anything like that. On the 9th, on the 9th, on the 12th, there's going to be a new moon in your 10th house. So a new moon is always going to be a new beginning, a new chapter starting, the conception of a new era. Having this in your 10th house of your career, your public image, your reputation, kind of what other people can see about you in a very public way. It's like your own PR basically, but also your accomplishments, your independence, your sense of the legacy that you lead. Having a new moon here is usually very exciting in terms of like opening a new chapter and the way that people are perceiving you. So again, because you have so many things going on in your first house and now your 10th house, not only are you kind of sitting across yourself and having to face certain things about yourself, or even mature, come up with these great accomplishments, make these really great strides that require a lot of effort in your life right now, but now other people are starting to see that about you. So having a new moon in the 10th house could be a new career or industry or professional new beginning, but if it's not so oriented to what you do for work, it could be something to do with like an accomplishment that you're taking on. I'm gonna go sober, I'm gonna lose 50 pounds. It's really great that you're having this around this time of year because it's kind of correlating with like like New Year's resolutions. So I think a new beginning here, you'll start to see it unravel over the next 2 weeks from this date. So from like the middle of the month to New Year's, but also over the next 6 months, you'll start to see that full culmination sort of happen into the spring, like May or June into 2024. On the 13th, Mercury is going to station retrograde in your 3rd house. So Mercury, again, is speaking, talking, writing, using your voice. It's where all that cerebral energy is happening, and that is in your 11th house of your social circle, social networking, the people that you're acquainted with, your really big dreams, etc. And I would just sort of tread lightly, especially at the beginning of the month, and try not to be too aggressively initiating something too hard, or like deciding something permanent, or sticking to like a belief or a conversation like so strongly, because it looks like it's very susceptible to change throughout the month. What I mean by that is having Mercury station retrograde is usually putting Mercury in a condition where it's like, let's retrace our steps, or let's go backward, let's revisit the drawing board. There's something that we need to bring back up to the surface again, make relevant again, rehash it out, reassess the details before we can navigate so efficiently moving forward. So having that in the social area of the chart, there can be a lot of disputes. It doesn't have to be bad. It doesn't have to always be so argumentative, but rather just topics with friendships or with your sense of belonging, whether that be like social miscommunications or something where you're realizing, oh, I used to really, really want this big thing in my life. Like this thing has been on my vision board for this long, and now I'm realizing like maybe I don't even really want it. Maybe I wanted it because someone else told me to want it, like something like that, or feeling that you need to have a certain accomplishment based off of like the social circle that you're in, or the expectations of what you're supposed to do based off of your sense of belonging in the world, things like that. Very up for debate basically, and it's going to revisit your 10th house later throughout the month, so it is going to probably have a lot to do with your accomplishments in your career. On the 12th, there's going to be a new moon, or I'm sorry, what is wrong with me? I just said that. I'm literally like falling asleep, I feel right now. This is the Mercury retrograde energy happening for me because I'm having it in my 3rd house, which is communication, and social media and the internet and recording things on camera. But on the 17th, the sun in your 10th house is going to square Neptune in your 1st house. So this is going to have to do with trusting your gut, trusting your intuition, sticking to your instinctual sort of impulses when it comes to your career, your accomplishments, and the way that people can see things about you in a public way, and what that reflects about your identity and who you are as a person. The reason I say that is because, again, with the sun, so ego, identity, creativity, also men, authority figures, sometimes in the 10th house it can be a boss or your father or somebody in charge, a government official, whatever it is, kind of coming into a square with Neptune across the board for everybody is usually going to be a day where you need to think a little bit clearer because something's not adding up, something's not making sense, there's missing details, there's missing information in its most malicious form. There's a sense of deception or manipulation on purpose. Like there can sometimes be somebody tricking you. Think of like a salesman or something like that. There can be something that's just not entirely true when it comes to the way that it's being sold to you. So having that between your 10th house of your career, your public image, your reputation, your accomplishments, and then your 1st house of self-identity, who you are, what you look like, and the way that you're navigating the world, I would almost say there's a need to like come back to the drawing board revisit why you want the things that you want, why you're working so hard towards something, what your accomplishments you're hoping they like reflect about you, or vice versa. It's like, what about you makes other people see you this way? It has a lot to do with perception, I would say, in a more public way, but I think a lot of it too has to do with like what you're willing to undertake and work towards based off of like your character and your identity. That's actually very interesting because it's the sun in Neptune. So maybe it is something like a boss or a father, and there being some fuzzy energy around like mentorship or trusting somebody else's judgment or suggestion or something like that. On the 22nd, the sun is going to enter your 11th house. So now this is going to join Mercury in the party and sort of add a sense of focus and illumination and attention to the more social area of your chart that has to do with very big dreams and manifestations, as well as the way that you are rendering support from other people based off of the groups and communities and organizations that you're a part of, your social media following, and like your friends who are supportive, things like that. So having the sun enter here is just going to double down on this being one of the main areas of your chart that's getting illuminated for the month. On the 23rd, Mercury retrograde is going to go from your 11th house back into your 10th house. So this is what I was talking about when I say what you want might be up for debate again. or your bigger dreams, your manifestations, the people that you surround yourself with, or public support that you're getting might backtrack or, pull back a little bit, have a delay, have an obstacle, have a setback of some sort, because there's something that you need to revisit in regards to your career that has to do with the blockages that are happening in your 11th house. So if you're not getting along with your friends, if you're not feeling like you're on the same page with the things that you used to want for yourself, if you feel like you don't align so much with a group or a belief or a political party or a church or a Facebook group, like anything that you're a part of or participate in, a particular demographic that supports you, it might have something to do with the way that you're seen or with the way that you're perceived or with what you want for yourself accomplishment wise or career wise. Like there might be something where before you can get that really big manifestation, there's still something else you need to complete in regards to your career. It's almost like you need to earn a little bit more experience, or you need one more approval, or you need to get a little bit more mentorship, or you need to pull off and prove yourself one more time before you can really propel into getting a lot of that support or that very big dream coming into fruition on the 25th. So on Christmas, this is another really good luck day, I feel like, for everybody across the board, because Venus is going to be in a supportive aspect to Neptune. So while Neptune was kind of clouding our vision and making things a little bit confusing the first half of the month and maybe not entirely clear, it looks like things start to sort themselves out and become a little bit clearer, or at least a little bit more beneficial and favorable to you. And that's going to be between your 9th house and your 1st house. So the 9th house, again, is what you know. It's your education, it's your personal philosophy, it's your belief system, it's traveling, it's education, it's again, like mentorship, being both a teacher and student of life. It's saying yes to opportunities, getting outside of your comfort zone, uncharted territory, going out, out of your way to kind of expand yourself, whether that's based off of your network, your knowledge, your mindset, your environment, etc. And having that in such a positive aspect to your 1st house, again, of self-identity, who you are. I think you are expanding. I think you are kind of growing in a bigger way. And it's so ironic because there is that almost contradiction of Pisces or Saturn also being in Pisces in your 1st house, where in some ways you might be limited or restricted, but probably from the things that weren't helping you grow. And Neptune on this day in particular is inviting you to grow and inviting you and encouraging you to kind of expand yourself. And with Venus in the mix too, adding pleasure and joy and like a feel-good energy to it, I don't think it's an uncomfortable growth spurt. I think that there's somebody or someone helping you kind of step into this new version of yourself. Again, maybe via mentorship, teaching energy, somebody that's just able to guide you through the process, or even like a more experienced friend. On the 27th, there's going to be a full moon in Cancer in your 5th house. So a full moon in Cancer is typically going to be slightly a little bit more emotional than the average one, because it isn't a water sign one, but it has a lot to do with home, family, living situation, property, real estate, mom, nurturing energy, maternal energy, and it's at 4 degrees, which is a Cancer degree. So it's really doubling down on that energy, but it's not like you're unfamiliar with water energy because you're a Pisces rising. So having a full moon in the 5th house has everything to do with your personal desires, with pleasure, with romance, with dating, with sex, with pregnancy, with children, with creative endeavors and passion projects. So to have a full moon here, it doesn't even necessarily have to be bad. It's actually going to give you a call back to July 17th, something that you might have began back then is now coming full circle and tying up of loose ends and kind of just culminating in a bigger way. So this might have to do with wrapping up a creative project. Like maybe there's something you started working on back then and now you're kind of in those finishing stages, or getting to celebrate the like finality of something. It can also be that someone that you were dating or something might sort of be coming full circle with that. And it doesn't always have to mean a breakup or something bad, but rather that, again, there's an exposure moment or a full circle moment, or something is kind of culminating in a way that is a little bit, you're starting to see it materialize, basically. It could be something like a pregnancy scare, like finding out you're pregnant. It can be like something in regards to, again, like a romantic endeavor or something that you want for yourself, a manifestation, any sort of talent-oriented things as well. This is like entertainment, singing, dancing, art, music, comedy, creativity, anything like that. On the same day, Chiron is going to station direct in your 2nd house of finances, personal possessions, belongings, financial investments, boundaries, self-worth. I would say like access to basic resources, getting your basic needs met. Like it's like having a roof over your head, having food on the table, being able to have just like a substantial amount of income and like a cushion of a foundation. So to have Chiron station direct here, Chiron isn't a planet, but it is an asteroid having to do with sensitivities and wounds and triggers, and where things can typically be a little bit more sensitive to the touch. It's been here for a while. It's not new energy. You've had Chiron here for a few years now, and it goes retrograde every year. So it's not anything that you haven't experienced before. But if there's any particular again, like pattern or consistency that you've been experiencing since July 23rd, it will now resume regularly scheduled programming. So for some people, I think when we have a Chiron retrograde, it gives them the opportunity to heal past things they weren't ready to fully face yet prior. For other people, I think it can be a phase of where pain sort of hinders them from making much progress at all, and they can be stagnant for a few months. And then I think for other people, it can show where they think that they were over something and zoomed past the healing process, and now as the station's direct again, you're like, okay, I need to give that some more attention. Having that in your second house again of money, finances, self-worth, personal possessions, basically how your self-worth and your money and like the things you render for yourself kind of overlap. There might be some changes happening there. With that being on the same day as the full moon in your fifth house of, again, creativity, personal pleasure, what you want for yourself, desires. It might have something to do with spending or with where you invest your time, money, and energy, where there might need to be constraints or like an acknowledgement to the things that you want, and maybe that not agreeing with the things that you need for yourself. On the 28th, Mercury retrograde is going to be still in your 10th house, but it's going to conjoin Mars and square Neptune. This is the day that I'm telling everybody to keep an eye on, because this is the day where everybody's going to be very loud and wrong. There's a lot of miscommunication in the air. Mercury is already retrograde, so it's not functioning in its smoothest sort of form, like it's not operating as it typically would. So it's already putting communication, attention to detail, and transportation in a spot where it's not super smooth. Putting that in now Sagittarius as well, which has to do with traveling, yes, but also conflating the truth, stretching the truth, exaggerating, telling a white lie, maybe not intentionally, but like kind of exaggerating things to fit a certain narrative or belief. It's also struggling a little bit in that sign. And then putting it in a square to Neptune, which really clouds the vision, softens the edges, makes us romanticize things and not see things entirely too clearly. And then mixing that with Mars now in the mix. Mars is like fighting for something that we believe in. It's sticking up for what we believe in. It's aggressively confronting something or initiating something. It's kind of like people are going to war over things that aren't true, or like people are fighting over something that was never even accurate information, or somebody is jumping into something and initiating something and starting a new chapter under the guise of optimism and something that was promised to them, and then it ends up being not what you thought it was going to be at all. It's like there's something that's, not everything is what it seems here on this day. So I would say with that being in your 10th house again of your career, your public image, your reputation, really how, again, people are seeing you publicly, but your accomplishments, your, industry that you're in, your profession, the way that you assert yourself as an authority figure to people on a larger level or in a more public way. And then Neptune in the first house, there might just be like general misunderstandings about you or about the way that people are perceiving you. There can be something with your career really clashing with your identity and who you are right now, whether that's like, I just do a job I don't even really want to do, I don't align with it at all, or something that I said or did is making people look at me in a like an inaccurate way, or vice versa. I don't know, there could be a head-to-head with that. I'd love to hear how this unravels for you guys. This is interesting to me. But on the 29th, Venus is going to enter your 10th house, so thankfully whatever maybe is conflicting or challenging or causing some sort of friction or stress or like just general what is going on energy in that public area of your chart having to do with accomplishments in your career, I think that Venus is going to ease it and sort of add some warmth and that like what is spiritual, like esoteric, astrological lubricant to this area of the chart getting easier at the end of the month. So there is a lot of Mercury retrograde energy. And again, things that don't always have to be, while they might be confusing or up in the air, it doesn't always have to be bad. I think that there's a general misconception that Mercury retrograde is here to punish you. And a lot of the times it helps a lot of people out because it's giving you an opportunity to slow down and reassess things before you mess up. So try try to use it to your advantage. On the 31st, on the last day of the year, Jupiter is going to station direct in your third house. So Jupiter is your chart ruler, your traditional chart ruler. So anything that Jupiter does, it's going to be extra personal to you. Jupiter is the planet of growth, expansion, abundance, opportunity. It wants to help you grow something. Having it go through your third house is speaking, talking, writing, self-expression, your everyday familiar people, environments, friends. It's the car that you drive. It's the coffee shop you go to every morning. It's the way you talk to your friends. It's the podcast you listen to. It's the book that you read. It's the way that you connect the dots. It's the knowledge that you know. It's everything that's familiar to you. So to have Jupiter stationed direct here, it's been retrograde since September 9th. You might have noticed that there was almost like an inward reflection to acknowledge why you think or feel or know the things that you do and where they come from. It could have also been maybe just a general sense of like coming to a halt or lack of progress with things in your everyday life, your productivity, your habits, your routines, just maybe not being as like beneficial as you want them to be. Or again, being like overindulgent, spending too much, doing too much, functioning in excess. Having it stationed direct here, again, it's just going to resume regularly scheduled programming. The reason that this is interesting or important is that it's stationing direct at 5 degrees, which is the same degree that we had the lunar eclipse in Taurus at on October 28th. So right around Halloween of this year, you closed a door to a major 2-year cycle that began back in late 2021. So I want you to try to figure out in November, December of 2021, what was beginning for you, what was being conceived in the third house. So again, like getting a new car, transportation, siblings, the way that you communicate with people, the way that you talk, writing a book, reading a book, using your voice, public speaking, going back to school, taking a course, moving somewhere, moving to a new city, getting an apartment, living with a friend, friendships in general. All of those things had a major new beginning in late 2021, and then that cycle closed and had a major ending on October 28th. Jupiter stationing direct at the same degree is essentially saying whatever you let go of is having this baton pass of you let go of this because now this is going to give you a much better opportunity. Jupiter being here is already like adding this idea of growth and expanding this area of your chart. It's been here since May 2023. It'll be here till May 2024. It's basically saying, okay, you might have had to let go of something or close something out here, but now there's much more fertile ground to grow something entirely new that's going to flourish a lot more and be far more abundant. So it gives you a nice opportunity in that way. There's a lot going on for you this month. I think in your case, it has more to do with who you're surrounding yourself with, what you believe in, like your faith. It's going to be at the most public area of your chart. And that's not to worry and be concerned you're going to do something embarrassing or awful and everybody's going to see it. Like this probably isn't going to change up or shake up whatever the circumstances in your life in regards to the public already look like. If you are someone that just goes to work and goes home, it doesn't mean you're going to fall down in the middle of the street and everybody's going to stare at you. But it also means that if you're already in the public eye or something, that there can be some more attention on something that you do publicly, especially if you're famous or you have a big following or something like that. But I would say that there's just a general sense of what you know, your knowledge, your experience, getting outside your comfort zone, traveling, and your faith is going to go through also your 10th house of your career and the way that people view you based off of your accomplishments or lack thereof, and how that gets you closer or further away from your big dreams based off of the people that you surround yourself with as well, and how that's all kind of in reflection of who you are as a person and your identity and character development at this time. So I hope that this helped you. If you have any questions, I am more than happy to answer them down below. I'd really like to hear about what you guys are going through right now. It actually helps me understand what's going on astrologically in regards to the rising sign being Pisces. So I'd love to hear about it. I hope you have an amazing end of the year. I hope you have an amazing New Year's, and thank you so much for watching. Also, if you want to book a personal reading, you can get so at KMONEY.biz. Everything that you need will be in the description below. Thank you so much for watching. Love you so much. I will talk to you soon.